When my neighbor Karen decided that my private pool was perfect for her daughter's birthday party, she didn't ask, she demanded. She even handed out flyers inviting the entire neighborhood to my backyard. At first, I thought it was a joke, but when she threatened to report me to the HOA for hoarding community resources, I knew I had to teach her a lesson. What followed? A drained pool, flashing lights, and the most satisfying ending I could have hoped for. When I bought my house 5 years ago, one of the biggest selling points wasn't the walk-in closets or the newly remodeled kitchen. It was the pool. A beautiful, sparkling in-ground pool with a wraparound deck, built-in lighting, and a waterfall feature that made my backyard feel like a resort. I kept it clean, safe, and private, just the way I liked it. The only downside? My next-door neighbor, Karen. From the very beginning, Karen had a problem with everything. If my lawn was cut too short, she complained it looked sterile. If I left a porch light on past 9 p.m., she claimed it was disturbing her cats. But she really, really hated the pool. She'd make snide remarks about how I was wasting water during the summer, and once accused me of installing it just to show off to the rest of the neighborhood. So imagine my shock when one Saturday morning, I found a folded flyer taped to my mailbox. In pastel pink cursive were the words, "You're invited. Madison's 10th birthday pool party." I blinked. Pool party? My confusion quickly turned to horror when I saw the address. My address. Underneath the invitation was a schedule of games, lunch, cake, and swimming. I stormed over to Karen's door and knocked, gripping the flyer like it was evidence in a crime scene. She opened the door with a sugary smile. "Oh, hi. I was going to come by and chat with you about that later," she chirped, pointing at the flyer. "Isn't it cute? You're hosting a birthday party. In my backyard," I said slowly. "Well, I figured you wouldn't mind." "You're not doing anything with it this weekend, right? And Madison's friends have nowhere else to go." I stared at her, stunned. "I mind," I said flatly. "You didn't ask." Karen's expression soured immediately. "It's just a pool. You're being selfish. The community could benefit from it. I was being generous enough to include you in the invitation. Honestly, you should thank me." "Karen, no. The answer is no. This is trespassing, and you better tell everyone it's canceled." She narrowed her eyes and folded her arms. "I'll be reporting this to the HOA. You're hoarding community space. We'll see what they have to say about your private oasis." I walked away before I said something that would escalate things. That night, I received 3 emails from other neighbors asking if the party was still on. Apparently, Karen had already handed out over 50 flyers. I emailed them all back. "No, the party is not happening. It's not at my house. I didn't approve it." That didn't stop her. 2 days later, a delivery truck showed up in front of my house trying to unload tables and balloons. I intercepted them, and the guy looked confused. "Karen said this was the location?" "She lied," I said. "Take it back." That night, Karen left me a voicemail. "Look, if you're going to be difficult, then maybe the HOA can settle this. Either let the party happen, or I'll file a complaint. And trust me, I always win." That's when I decided to take action. The following morning, I made a few calls. I had a friend who worked for the city, and I asked if there was any legal issue with draining a private pool temporarily. He laughed and said, "Not at all. As long as it's your property, you do what you want." I called a pool service and scheduled a full drain. Not a little, every last drop. The day before the so-called party, the truck arrived and sucked the pool dry. I even had them power clean the inside so it gleamed like polished concrete. But I wasn't done. I printed a new set of flyers in the exact same style Karen had used, but with one twist. Pool party canceled due to illegal trespassing attempts. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Sorry for the inconvenience. I handed them out to everyone on the block. People were confused. Some chuckled, a few gave me thumbs up. The real kicker came when I installed a sign right at the edge of my backyard where everyone could see. Private property. This pool is not for public use. Violators will be prosecuted. You'd think Karen would back off after that, right? Wrong. On the morning of Madison's birthday, I woke up to the sound of screaming children. I looked out the window and saw a group of kids and their parents in my yard. There were folding chairs, a giant inflatable unicorn, and Karen, standing by the empty pool, looking flustered. I threw on a shirt and marched out. Karen spun around. "What did you do?" "What you forced me to," I said calmly. "I drained it. Because I told you, this party wasn't happening." "You're insane," she shouted. "You ruined Madison's birthday." "You ruined it," I corrected. "I never agreed to any of this, and you're all trespassing." A few parents began to shuffle awkwardly, clearly realizing something wasn't right. One father whispered, "Wait, he didn't agree to this?" Karen spun on them. "He's just being petty. He said yes weeks ago. This is his fault." I shook my head. "Would you all like to hear the voicemail she left me? I still have it saved." That's when a police cruiser pulled up. Apparently, one of the more sensible parents had called the police when they realized things were going south. Karen turned white. The officer stepped out of his cruiser, surveying the scene with a raised brow. It wasn't every day you got called to a child's birthday party gone rogue, but one look at the confused kids, the annoyed parents, and the completely drained pool, and he realized something was off. "Sir, are you the homeowner?" the officer asked me. "Yes, I am. This is my house, my yard, and my pool, which, as you can see, has no water because this party was never approved." The officer nodded and turned to Karen. "Ma'am, can you explain what's going on here?" Karen gave her signature strained smile. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. I had a conversation with the homeowner weeks ago, and he agreed to host a birthday party for my daughter. Then, this morning, he emptied the pool out of spite. Now these poor children are left disappointed and crying on her special day." I stayed calm. I never agreed to anything. I told her multiple times this was not approved. I even showed her printed flyers I passed around the neighborhood canceling the party. She proceeded to invite guests anyway and trespassed on my property. This is criminal trespassing, plain and simple. One of the dads stepped forward. "Officer, if I'm being honest, we were under the impression this was prearranged, but after hearing what he just said and seeing this, yeah, I think we were misled." Another parent nodded. "I feel like we were all tricked into showing up." Karen looked around, realizing her allies were disappearing. "You people are so ungrateful. I put this whole thing together." "But it's not your house, Karen," one mom replied sharply. "You can't just throw a party in someone else's yard without their consent." The officer pulled out his notepad. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step aside. Do you have written permission from the homeowner?" Karen scoffed. "No, but I left him a voicemail." I sighed. "Would you like to hear that voicemail, officer? I've got it saved." I played it back on speaker. The part where she threatened to report me to the HOA for hoarding community space made the officer raise an eyebrow. When the message ended, he clicked his pen shut. "Well, that's pretty clear," he said. "Ma'am, this is private property. Hosting an event here without permission is considered trespassing. You and your guests will need to leave immediately." Karen's jaw dropped. "You're siding with him?" "I'm siding with the law," the officer replied. "You can't use someone else's property for an event just because it's convenient." "You've ruined my daughter's birthday," she shouted at me. "No," I said, locking eyes with her. "You did that the moment you decided to bully your way into using my home." The parents began to gather their kids and quietly pack up. The inflatable unicorn was deflated, tables folded, and balloons popped one by one in the back of someone's SUV. A few parents muttered apologies to me as they left. One even offered to buy me a coffee sometime. I politely declined, but appreciated the gesture. Karen stayed behind, arms crossed, fuming. The officer gave her one last warning. "Ma'am, if you don't vacate the property, I'll be forced to cite you for criminal trespassing. You've already disrupted the peace." She stormed off, dragging Madison behind her. The poor girl looked like she just wanted to disappear. I genuinely felt bad for the kid. It wasn't her fault her mom was a nightmare. As Karen crossed the property line, the officer turned back to me. "Do you want to press charges?" he asked. I paused. Honestly, I could have. But I looked around at the quiet backyard, the drained pool, and the stress of the whole ordeal. "Not today," I said. "Just let her know if she ever steps foot in my yard again. I will press charges." He nodded. "Fair enough. And good call with draining the pool. That probably prevented a real disaster." We shook hands, and I spent the rest of the afternoon refilling the pool slowly, taking satisfaction in every gallon that poured back in. 1 week later. Word spread quickly throughout the neighborhood. Karen had become the cautionary tale of the block. No more flyers, no more entitled parties. In fact, she barely even showed her face for days after the incident. But karma hadn't finished with her. At the next HOA meeting, which I made sure to attend for once, Karen tried to bring up inconsiderate neighbors and lack of community spirit. Before she could finish, 3 other residents interrupted and called her out for the pool party fiasco. One even pulled out a photo of the empty pool party setup and waved it like evidence in a courtroom. Karen sat down, humiliated. The president of the HOA cleared his throat. "Let this serve as a reminder. You do not speak for this community, and no one is entitled to anyone else's private property. Ever." I'll admit, that moment was satisfying. But the icing on the cake? A few weeks later, Karen put her house up for sale. Word was, she was looking for a neighborhood that appreciated her leadership skills. Good luck with that, Karen. As for me, I hosted a small get-together in my newly refilled pool with a few kind neighbors. No flyers, no chaos, just burgers on the grill and peace in the air. If you love wild HOA revenge stories just like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more unbelievable tales coming your way, and you won't want to miss them.